Tunji is one of the most experienced project managers I know. Back in Nigeria, I used to know him back in Nigeria. At some point in my life, I explored project management. Who didn't explore project management if you're in Nigeria? I did, and I went for the classes, but I just said to myself, like, that's not me. I'm a content marketer, I'm an editorial, and so I stayed on that path. But I did explore project management, and so Tunji taught me at some point. So he then moves to the UK and he starts to struggle. It kind of tells you what immigrants kind of go through. Like, he just starts to struggle. Let me not spoil the story for you. Let's just listen to him talk. He tells his story. He also shares 3 tips. Actually, he shares 4 tips for anyone who's looking to move to the UK as a project manager. Enjoy. Tunji, it's interesting when I think about your career, because back in Nigeria, if we were talking about people who were like project managers extraordinary, that's how it's pronounced. I think you had spent how long in doing PM in Nigeria before you left?
About a decade plus. 11. I kicked off 2011. So when I relocated in 2012, that's about 11 odd years, 11, 12 years. Yeah.
That's 11 core years of teaching,
teaching and doing
writing books, creating. Because I think you had like a game or something for PM.
I mean, I've experimented lots of things. I mean, anything around PM, and like maybe the only thing I didn't do is like create a football premiership or something on project management. I explored everything, taught it, did it, invented games, wrote a book. It's my life. I believe I'm, just was breathing project management. Yeah.
So now, when you look at all the experience, like, how was it now just kind of transferring that skill to the UK when you moved?
Well, it's mixed, right? Kind of mixed feelings, right? It was partially easy because project management is a global thing. It has global appeal. It's applied, everywhere in the world. However, all along I've been, every time I teach, I talk about environmental factors, until the root shock hits me in the UK. This is a different environment. There's just the way things are done, the culture, the people, the policies here, everything here is different from where I'm coming from Nigeria. So that's transition, the soft landing I had was, the practices, the principles are still the same, but adapting it, that was a bit of work. That was it was an uphill battle, yeah. And it was a steep learning curve for me. So getting to adapt wasn't that funny. Yeah. It was rough at the beginning, but I'm getting my flow right now, getting my rhythm. Yeah.
You've been there how long now?
Just about 3 years. Got in 2022, so by next February that'll be 3 years. That'll be 3. Yeah, that should be my 4th February. 2022, 2023, 2024. So yeah, that should be my so 3 years plus. Just about, yeah.
So yeah, so you raised something really interesting. So in Canada here, when you move to Canada, they say, they call it Canadian experience. They say, you don't have Canadian.
What do you call it, Kanye?
Sorry, Canadian. Sorry, I was speaking too fast. It's called Canadian experience. So they say you don't have Canadian experience, which means that you don't understand the culture and all that, or you need to work with Canadians to kind of understand Canadian. And so I'm curious, is that the same thing you're trying to say when you say it was difficult?
Yeah. It's pretty much the same. In fact, I want to pick on, you're the one to be asking a question, but I want to pick on what you just said, saying you're speaking fast. I've had people say, hey, take it nice and slow, TJ. You're speaking so fast, I can't hear you. I'm like, I would have thought before leaving Nigeria that we are the ones that think, the Europeans or the Brits or the Americans speak so fast. But then I've had people tell me I speak so fast. I'm like, wow, this is surprising. So you speaking fast, I'm like, wow, take it easy, bro. Take it easy, bro. So it's that same thing around, trying to like talking about that experience. Yes, it's a deal breaker. Like even when you're looking for a job, it's a deal breaker. Like I had to, I, you know, I had several people tell me if you don't have that UK experience, even if you are coming with all the certifications in the world, like it's going to be only very rare occasions. Like you get what I'm trying to say? Only very like maybe like 1% of the 1% that eventually get jobs even when they don't have UK experience. You know, that kind of a thing. Yeah. So it's just quite rare. But a lot of times it's a deal breaker. So it does affect because it looks like, it wasn't until I got into, the corporate world I realized that, oh, these guys like to throw banters. They like to, they like to even before meetings, they like to, throw banters at themselves. They like to chit chat. So come on, we don't have anything in common because we are coming from different places, and these guys are catching up talking about their holiday. We don't even have an holiday culture back in Nigeria, so there's no holiday to talk about. It was just so many things. The jokes they are sharing, the kind of, there's certain things they throw, like it's not just banters. Like there's certain things like jokes. I'm trying to remember the term. They say those things, and it's just not funny to you, and they were expecting you to laugh and join your colleagues. So it was like being a misfit, and it wasn't just me. I know people that they were dropped off their job, they were fired because they felt they don't fit in. They just don't. It's not like they're not good at their job, but they don't fit in. So that's a factor, really. That experience, that having worked in that, in that environment, and it's quite unfortunate because it's like being a fresh graduate and everybody's asking for 5 years experience, 10 years experience. Come on, if everybody's asking for 5 years experience, 10 years, where are you going to start from? So, you're just going to spend 5 years looking for a job, and then, I mean, like, it's just crazy, really. I feel sometimes expectations needs to be managed. If somebody is new in a system, if he's new in an environment, they need to be fair, they need to be more realistic. Like, no, it's going to take time. Adaptation takes time. So, yeah, it does take time.
Yeah, so yeah, it's an interesting thing. Because I use the word interesting when I really don't know how to describe it. I don't say sad or frustrating because somehow I kind of understand where they're coming from, but I also also somewhere inside me I also expect that you should at least give the new person some time to just kind of find their way in the new culture, especially because
True.
if you think about, so let's use Nigeria and the UK for example. Like we're very different in how we take feedback. We're very different in how we give feedback.
Yeah.
We're very different in how we talk.
Yeah.
And then the British are really known for their sense of humor and their,
Yeah.
how their culture.
Yeah.
So I can imagine. So I want to ask you about like how, so if you say people find it difficult, how do those who get jobs? I want to ask you if you have any thoughts on how tips to avoid not avoid, or more like circumvent that process and get a job despite not having the British experience.
Yeah.
But I first want to just kind of go touch on something you talked about right now about, they were cracking a joke and, you don't, there's no holiday culture in Nigeria. So what
Yeah.
am I, like, what am
Yeah.
I don't have any holiday, I didn't have a holiday,
Yeah.
I was
Yeah.
just
Yeah.
partying or something.
Yeah.
So I'm just curious, like, are there any other like big cultural differences that stuck out to you work wise as you were just trying to find your way into getting your first job, or when you got your first job and you're trying to settle into the culture?
Okay, well, there was a lot of culture shock for me. I experienced quite a number of culture. It wasn't just in the workplace, even in the society at large. So if I pick on the ones in the workplace, you know, back in Nigeria, we don't do first name basis. Most companies don't do first name basis due to the culture. We still kind of, is it genuflect, or what do you call it? When
Mm-hmm.
you just kind of, still bow to an elderly person. I mean, like in my team, when I landed, so the first role I did when I got to the UK was a technical role. They call it cable puller, but I kind of branded it fiber optic technician. I mean, come on, guys, you got to pride yourself, right? Package yourself. There was cable pulling, they needed cable pullers, replacing copper cables on the high streets, in London, Woolwich, and some of these areas. with fiber optic cables, they were doing 5G upgrade. I mean, it's still telecom industry, but it was a deep. If I do my interview, the direct project director, a young chap, told me, "Wow, looking at your profile," and that was a profile I still had to trim down, remove all my certifications and everything. He's like, "With this experience, bro, man, like my fear is you're not going to stay long here. Like, you're not going to stay long. But if you want to stay, you're going to rise fast." It was like, but it knows I'm not going to stay long. Like, another company is going to grab me with my experience. And, as if it prophesied, in barely 3 months, I got my first, desired role. What I got then was what was available, not
Yeah.
what I desire. A lot of people settle for what is available, what just to get by. So, even in that technical role that I was at the time, there were lots of things like people speaking, and I can't really make up what they're saying, so you had to tune your ear to actually hear what they're saying and all that. And another thing again is, naivety. You actually don't know that it was actually until I got to the UK I realized your colleagues are not your friends. So Nigeria, I mean, just when you feel you could build trust with someone and start sharing things with them, actually learned the hard way. So I would be quite open and feel, oh, I found a body. I had a body. I was, actually telling things, telling him how miserable my line manager was making me feel, not knowing that was the same person that was actually so close to the line manager. See how naive I was. So they get to tell you one of the rules right there is your colleagues are not your friends. Like, it wasn't a rule I actually was staring at me in the face back in Nigeria. So some of those things. And I mean, another thing again is, catching up, for lunch and all that. And then people also, one of the culture shock again is I got surprised even during, regular days. If I want to catch up with friends, maybe colleagues, rarely in Nigeria, it's going to be towards weekend. Thank God it's Friday. You know what I'm talking about? Like towards weekend.
Yeah.
Bro, London, like every day the pubs are open, like close to work, people are balling. So they actually expect you to catch up with your colleagues, you know, hang out and during lunch. You guys like, and then a lot of times they also want to go for a fag. I don't smoke, so people are going for a fag. That's opportunity for them to actually gossip.
Yeah.
So you're missing out. Oh, I want to go for a fag. So even during my breaks when I'm teaching, I actually don't know I should be introducing more frequent breaks so that people can go for a fag. So you just realize that people are lost. So to learn all those things. So some of those little stuffs, and and then a lot of time people don't even like it when you call them. If your name is Doze or maybe Inwa Doze, some people will tell you my name is maybe Elizabeth, but that they only call me Elizabeth when I'm in trouble at home. Just Liz is fine. If you call them Elizabeth, they're gonna be very, very mad at you. So some very, very little stuffs, like that. Like at the time, I think I called a colleague his surname by mistake, and then he got very mad. I was like, no, no, I'm going to take that off. Just some,
Wow.
yeah, 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 yeah. So some of those very little, little stuffs, and then another thing again is the communication, you know, communication, like it's just something you've got to learn. We have all the formalities back in Nigeria. Oh, dear Doze, I'm going to get back to you. No, just so there's just differences, and then even in the dressing, like I was coming from, I mean, I was coming directly from the bank. I was working in Keystone Bank, so so I still had all my suits and everything. No, like a lot of people wear running shoes because you walk a lot in London to catch the
Yeah.
train, catch the tube, and all that. So I had to start adjusting, you know, to quite a number of things, and it was like just learn fast, like just grow up, like no time at all, like no time. I'm telling you, yeah, no time. It wasn't a very, very, very pleasant period at all. Yeah, yeah. Because some
I,
people made it very, very hard for me. That's what I'm trying to say. Yeah, I mean, not even calming down. That hey, relax. It's just barely 1 year. Yeah.
I really like that term you use. Yeah, 'cause I think that's the right term. What an immigrant has to go through. You have to kind of grow up again
Hmm.
because you kind of start afresh and then you have to grow up. And the difference between now and previously growing up as a kid is that you have to grow up fast,
Uh-uh.
way fast, because now the consequences are harsher. They're more just they're just things are just much harder than it used to be as a kid. As a kid, people forgave you. People gave you the time to find your way. As an
Yeah.
immigrant, no one
Yeah.
has the time.
At all. No
Yo,
time. No
you have to
time.
just get on with the program, understand the culture, understand yourself, and move on.
Yeah.
But it kind of takes me back to something someone said on the podcast sometime, which is,
Mm.
as an immigrant, you need to learn to give yourself grace.
Mm.
You have to give yourself grace, or else you're just gonna get the pressure is just gonna put you in things that you will regret. You
And
have
you would
to give
have
yourself,
serious mental issues,
yes, you have to
mental
give
health
yourself grace.
issues. Yeah. Absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, if you don't, like, you've got to build that inner resilience and, like you said, grace, like everything combined. You know, I mean, at a point, I got asking myself, it looks like if going forward isn't possible, maybe going backward might be an option. Like, boy,
Hmm.
I think I'm going back to Nigeria.
Are you
Like,
serious?
yes, now, like, who send me message? Like, why, like, I wasn't suffering in Nigeria, like, in Nigerian terms, like, I mean, but for family, I think I'm jumping the gun now, but it was basically for family, because left to me, hey, bro, I was ready to slug it out. I was ready to still put my head in the ring to say, you know what, if I'm going to contest for governorship in Lagos, if I'm going to, eventually take it up from where Fela Durotoye stop or where Peter will be like, I still want to vie for presidency. Like, I still believe in building my country. I'm still proudly Nigeria anytime, any day. And I'm still interested in what happens there. So I was on that pathway. I was such an activist on social media on developmental issues. I was doing well. I was working as an employee. I had my business on the side, which you're aware of, training and all that. I own a property in Lagos. So I felt, come on, why am I going through all this? Like, I'm a star boy, but I mean, I just call myself star boy of training. Like, you don't get for NNPC to send me on to Dubai, all expense paid trip to go train a couple of guys, about 30 of them. You get what I'm trying to say? Like, I felt like, man, why why am I why am I in a place where I'm not being recognized? Like, you get what I'm struggling to be recognized. Like,
Yeah.
you guys don't know me, right? You guys need to dig up my profile, like, know my pedigree. So it was a lot of people struggle with that. Like, you just go from like up here, you just get that deep and trying to struggle to be seen. In fact, I kind of compared my experience to playing in maybe La Liga, and I was like the highest goal scorer, and then I'm coming to the Premier League, and it looks like, who knows you? You get what I'm saying? Who knows you? Like, no, nobody knows you. Nobody cares. You have to fight it out and make yourself known.
Yeah.
Seriously, yeah,
And, I still want to ask you the tips, but you keep going deeper and deeper. When you say, I will explore, don't leave
yeah.
me hanging when you say to
All
me,
right.
someone, some people made it difficult for you. Like, some people, do you mean like co-workers, just trying to
Yeah,
settle in? Let's kind of explore that thing a bit.
yeah. So when I say they made it difficult for me, like, you find instances where if you don't get enough support, if you don't get enough support, if you don't have an understanding, if you don't have understanding colleagues, understanding, you know, manager. In fact, it wasn't until I got to UK I now realized that quote, people don't leave bad jobs or bad companies. They actually leave bad because of bad managers. So especially your line manager, if you don't have an understanding person that is willing to give you the support to say, I understand. I understand. Do you know what it means to walk in someone's shoes to say, I mean, it takes empathy. Like, it takes someone that has that real empathy to know that I know what this person is going through. I mean, do you know what it means? First year, I mean, this is me being making myself vulnerable, because I mean, that's what this podcast is all about, to help someone out there. Imagine going from living in a 3-bedroom house with a very big garden in Nigeria to now squatting with your family member, my sister-in-law, for 1 year, bro. 1 year, a family of 4. So I had all that dealing with, and then now at work, I'm going through all this pressure around the fact that, you know, I'm getting complaints from some of my delegates, like, he's not communicating well. Of course, he's new. Give him time. So it takes a manager to be understanding, to say, yeah, we're getting all these complaints, but I actually know why. Do you get what I'm trying to say? I
Yeah.
actually know why. Just shield him from all those things, to say, yeah. you know, let's give him time. But I wasn't getting all that. And then I actually realized that, there were some benefits I actually was entitled to, but because I actually don't know the system, it's new to me. Yeah. So there were some trips I'll be on, and I was supposed to maybe claim some, like work weekends and then get double rate or, and all that. But I actually didn't know. So people in the system knew all that. You get what I'm trying to say? But I didn't know. So all of that could be quite painful, and you've got to actually put your ears to the ground. I mean, you're going to make some mistakes basically, but you
Yeah.
learn. You make mistakes. You get what I'm trying to say? Like this thing around who to confide in, who to actually tell stuff. Not everybody. It's not everybody because you actually don't know, who is going to take that up, and then another thing I've also realized is, it's generally said in the UK like Brits don't know how to keep secrets. So if you think you're saying something around the fact that you're trying to divorce or something quite personal, no, just forget about it because everybody's going to hear about it. Everybody will hear about it. So some of those little things where it takes you either make a mistake and learn or you learn from other people. Because yeah,
Yeah.
you know, it is what it is. And then I think you asked a question also around the fact that okay, tips around beating that UK experience thing. Just get on apprenticeship. Look for a company, where you can actually go on LinkedIn, find any UK company where you can actually offer to work, as a volunteer, as an apprentice
Yeah.
pending, but that shouldn't stop you. So what I did, my own strategy was, if I was, fortunate to locate a friend of mine, childhood friend, whose husband actually runs a tech company, and they were like, let me work for you as Scrum Master pro bono, no fee. But when I need reference regarding where I've worked in the UK, you guys will provide it. And I was joining daily meetings virtually. So that for me helped as a pedestal to get my job with that training company as a project management trainer. You see what I'm talking about? A lot of
Yeah.
people don't want to do it. You've got to be willing to go down to go up. So I did that, and I was also so when I got that technical role, I was doing it. That was like my official job on LinkedIn. But then my also really that was bringing in some few
Eh,
hundreds of pounds that I could actually use to now sort a few things. So what was really paying me was that technical role, but I didn't want that on my profile. So guess what? It was that role they saw, Scrum Master, this, that was actually that was the deal breaker for me. So that's actually a tip somebody can adopt. It's got to be on your profile. So some people take up trainings where you can say, I take up a 3-month training with some established training companies, and then you do training, and then you now do like, okay, can I shadow any, anybody, any BA or any
mhm.
PM, and all that. So there are ways around it. There are ways around it. So because it's a deal breaker, really. It is a deal breaker.
Like so, stay building on this. Your emotions, the emotions you share here. Like, what did you think it was going to be like before you moved?
Wow. Well, what did I think it was going to be like? Maybe I actually didn't think. I just lived. No, seriously. Because the question you asked me is actually what the best boss I've worked with, Yvonne, my head of division back in Keystone Bank, asked me, "Are you sure that what are you going to be doing when you get there?" I was like, and well, I've been discussing with one or two persons, and it looks like there's some prospect. So there's actually some things in ground, but the
That was
reality is
nothing.
there was nothing solid. I actually don't want them to feel sorry for me, like it's making a big mistake, that kind of a thing. So I was like, wow, I know that, and yeah. So what was I really thinking? Well, I just felt like it was a big risk for me, like chance. I'll take my chances, but I also felt if it didn't work out in first few months, I could, I would actually, yeah. If I had my boss's manager, I mean, my boss's number on speed dial, ready to dial and say, you know what, boss, that spot, the vacancy I left, is this still, is this still available? That kind of a thing. So it was more like a case of, if this doesn't work out, I'm just going to go back to Nigeria. Like, it wasn't like a do or die for me, actually, coming to the UK. I felt like, you know, I wasn't doing that bad. You get what I'm trying to say? So it wasn't like I'd not always been a fan of, oh, I must relocate. No. So for me, it was like, let's try it, and all that. Let's try it. and all that. And if it works out, every time you take a decision with family, really, it's beyond you. When you
Yeah.
take a decision with family, so you just don't consider yourself alone. You're also thinking of what about them and all that. So all those sentiments was actually part of it. Like, you know what, if I have to suffer some things for their sake, okay, you know what, let's see how it goes. That kind of a thing. So it was rough at the beginning. Yeah, it was turbulent. Yeah. It was turbulent, bro. It
So
was turbulent.
do you think that it's kind of getting better now? Do you think you're finding your feet right now? Or do you think that
Well, I haven't moved from being a full time. When I said I had nasty experiences, bro, I was fired first working day of the year last year. And that was about the time I just rented my first apartment.
what?
Yep. Yep. So when I said I had very, 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 very bitter experience, like, yeah. So, it was rough. Like when I say it was really, I mean, I faced it in my face, like I'm going to be homeless. Like, what are we going to, I'm going to be, you know, I'm going to be the laughing stock of everybody. Like, it was like, it wasn't, losing your job and then staring at you like, you're going to be, are you going to pay your bills and everything? So it was rough. It was really, really rough. But what I realized is, and somebody had always told me that the best way to actually, you know, make it big in the UK is contracting. So, talking to the right people, I was able to register my own company with just about £23, which a lot of people don't know. Once a lot of people ask me now, to say, how did you register your company? And I give them all the lowdown. Within 30 minutes, about £23, you could actually register your company. I'm like, wow. So that was the advice I took. I started contracting. Long story short, I've got about 10 clients. So talking about getting my feet, bro, I think I'm living the dream. Like seriously, contracting is the way to go. Like, looking back, I actually realized it actually now pays me more, you know, than actually what I was doing. So it was like a blessing in disguise, really.
Mm-hmm.
Looking back, and I think it's a blessing in disguise. Yeah. So it was rough. It was really, really rough. But then, I like what my dad normally said. My dad would say, "There's a story who pushed me." So you didn't want to jump into the pool or into a river where you think you've got crocodiles and all that, and then if you
Yeah.
swim to the other end, you're going to get a trophy. But then somebody pushed you, and then you won the trophy. And then you're asking them who pushed me. You're not angry because you're trying to thank the person for getting you to your breakthroughs. So for me, really, I'm actually glad they pushed me. So what didn't kill me has made me stronger. That's all I'm trying to say.
Mm. So, let's kind of explore something. So I find so you there's something they say that when you immigrate, the act of questioning yourself turns you into something else.
Hmm.
So you have this new book that you just finished writing or you've just published, No
Yeah,
Blacks, No Whites.
yeah.
Like, was this something you had going on in your head before you left Nigeria,
Nope.
or was it just all these experiences? Just you kind of just poured all that anger out into a book.
Okay, so I've always been will I say radical thinker. I've always deep thinker, radical thinker. I think about various life issues. You know, I've always growing up. I've always been concerned. So I've always been concerned around why some people are usually given preferential treatment over others, right? Things like, you know, you, things like in the workplace, you see these, somebody went to study abroad, got a master's, and then suddenly come back and they are rated more than people that did masters locally in Nigeria. It's still that same thing of, oh, abroad is above all. That mentality. Or you see the way an expatriate is being treated even better than the citizens. So but in those things, I think I put on those things, like it bothers me, So, but the the straw that broke the camel's back was when I was fired, and it was based on aggravated, you know, complaints by some of my delegates, not all of my delegates, right? So it was the fact that I've had people tell me to the face, make false allegation And I feel, where could this be coming from? Allegations like he's not communicating well. I can't hear a thing he's saying. Like, what? Am I that bad? Like, yeah, you hear people say things like, he's not communicating well, or things like, he didn't even use the training material. He taught me rubbish. I didn't learn a thing from Tunji's class. Like, I'm like, this job I've been doing for that long, you know, I couldn't hear a thing. All manner of funny. And in the same class, I'm also going to have some delegates give me, you know, top ratings, and I'm like, if you have a supportive manager, they need to be open-minded enough to say, some, you can't satisfy everybody. And then this guy is still new on the job. He's new in the country. He's got a lot of, you get what I'm trying to say? So you need to, if I was getting that support, that would have been good. But then my line manager will say things like, have you read those comments? Did you really internalize them? Wait a minute, you want me to jump off Tower Bridge or London Bridge? No, it ain't gonna happen. Those negative comments. And if you actually know the typical Brits, they are not so magnanimous with compliments. They are not so magnanimous. So if you're going to get a fantastic, amazing, man, you've got to really, really really, really try. And I think that was when it dawned on me. If Harry Kane scores one goal, is the best thing that has happened since Aristotle. You see what I'm talking about? But Saka has to score 10 goals, or Marcus Rashford, to actually get the same accolades, if you know what I mean. So I felt, wow,
Yeah.
I actually need to do extra more. Man, this isn't fair. You get what I'm trying to say?
Yeah.
Like, I felt I was putting in so much into it within the short time that I've been there, but I'm not getting commendation, right? I'm getting condemnation. I feel like this is so unfair. Like, you get what I'm trying to say? So, and I started gathering some of the commendations I'm getting, like feedbacks from some delegates say, "Oh, I attended your training, I passed. Thank you so much, TJ." I'm like, yeah, this is really encouraging. Something to let you know you're on the right path. But then
Yeah.
while I'm trying to do that, I'm also having a manager remind me, TJ, are you seeing also the negative comment? Like, oh no, sir, this have come again. So all that put together, and then in the first time in my career, I didn't pass probation after 6 months of being on the job. Why? Because they said I wasn't meeting target. I'm like, wow. I've worked in different places. I'm so mobile. I've moved from different companies. My probation has never been extended. It was extended by 2 months, and then guess what? After 2 months, I was fired. First working day of the month of the year. That was last year, and I wasn't even given a chance. They said there was going to be an appeal. It was a how am I going to put it? Like, it was all playing to the gallery. It was like an institution against me, against and I actually found out it wasn't just me, because I have colleagues that are also of African origin and are also still in the company, and they are facing hell. You get what I'm trying to say? They're so I could tell this is an institutional thing. And what I've also observed is, so it has made me to even study companies to say, okay, if you look at a company's leadership, you know, arrangement and organizational structure, and you can actually tell those at the top is not diverse. That kind of a company, I can tell what you're likely to experience in those companies. So I looked at that company and I saw the organizational, the structure and all that. You could actually tell there's a ceiling for you. There's a limit to how you can rise in those companies.
Yeah.
So I had to put all that vent in a book. I just had to put it in a book to say, wow, you know what? You need to actually judge me by the content of my character. Like, is it Martin Luther King? Yeah. Judge me by the content of my character and by my intellect, not by my skin color or my accent or where I'm from. So that's why a lot of people are lacking, really. People will judge you. So I'm standing in front of a class and I'm saying, hi, everyone. I'll be your instructor for this class. And already some people have passed the vote of no confidence already. All because they just don't like the person. You get what I'm trying to say? That's going
Yeah.
to be handling the cost. So it's people, I caught it recently. I think it was a newspaper article I was reading from, I think he's an athlete, he's one of the, he said people don't have to say it, they can actually imply it. Their attitude can actually tell you that they don't like you, they detest you, they're trying to, they're being discriminatory. They don't have to say it. So you feel these things, so it's I just felt, best to document all these experiences in a book. And it's a rich one because in just barely 3 years in the UK, Dozie, I can tell you I've been to more places than people that were born here actually. Yeah. So I've actually traversed most parts of the UK, like all the, countries making up the, Wales, Northern Ireland, Scotland, and of course England. Even some countries that are also part of the Commonwealth, like Isle of Man. So I've actually seen, people's character, the way they behave. Those that are friendly, those that are not. So I've actually observed people from cosmopolitan places like London, big cities like Birmingham, Leicester. Some of those big cities, Belfast, they're actually very open-minded. Why? They've been so used to interacting with foreigners, migrants, and it's like, okay, there's nowhere to chase you guys. We're all in this together, so we just get used to you. But when you go to places that are quite remote, villages and some towns, nah, you know, you're still gonna find people look at you in a very funny way. Still gonna find people looking at you like, are you trying to steal something? Is it trying to rob me? That kind of a thing. And it is, it's just that's so I had to put all that experience in the book to say no blacks, no whites, we're all the same. Just want everybody, we're all pursuing the same thing, really.
I want to ask you, I think we have just two more questions and we'll round up. So I
Yeah.
want to ask you a bit about something you talk about. I find that really interesting. One of the chapters in the book where you talk about the role of the media, and like, what are your thoughts on that? How do you think the media can help perpetuate it? I mean, or rather, how do you think the media help perpetuate it? And how do you think the media can help, just kind of change that conversation? Because as I grow older, I start to learn that the media is way more powerful than I thought it used to be.
Very powerful. It's a good thing you're asking that question, Jose, because right in your homeland in Canada, my wife was still telling me there's something going viral. I don't know if you watched it, where some Nigerian was actually threatening to kill anyone from Edo and Yoruba. Yes, that's a fellow Nigerian threatening that anywhere she sees that she's Canadian. Yeah, she's Canadian now, but anywhere she sees a Yoruba person or Edo, she's gonna kill them. Like, wow, that's not coming from so-called whites. That's coming from one of you. So the media needs to be censored. Really, there is people say freedom. There should be freedom, but freedom without caution. You know what I'm talking about. There should be caution. So there should be some, like, what do you call it? Safeguards. Gates. Guardrails still around it. If your platform is being used to propagate the wrong thing, come on, you should be sanctioned. I give you a case in point. Rwanda. How did the Rwandan genocide, how did it happen? It was down to a loose talking radio presenter, just the way we're having this program. And he said, anywhere you find a certain tribe, they are like roaches. You should kill them with a flip-flop, like trample on them and just crush them. You see what I'm talking about? That was part of what triggered the genocide. That's how powerful the media is. So I feel, whatever platforms, those big tech, the Meta, the Facebook, the Twitter, they should put guardrails. You can't just allow people, just use their handle. You get what I'm trying to say? Because it's so easy these days. I could actually post a video and it can go viral. You never can tell who's going to see. And then look at recently in the UK. Would you actually know that the riot and all this, after a guy of African descent went to stab some, young girls, and then next thing, they now started, rioting and now trying to attack, migrants and all that. Do you know it was actually blown beyond proportion on the media? Because at that time we had his birthday for my dad in Liverpool, close to where it happened, and I even went to drop my auntie there, and there was nothing. People were wondering, stay safe, everything. I was in Liverpool. So people just circulate so many wrong things, and some of those things can actually, so you see them, maybe attacking someone of your type, and then next thing you say, okay, now I'm going to get back at them. Meanwhile, it was probably doctored or a deep fake. So the media, we need to just be very cautious really on what we're taking from the media and all that. And some of these things are not actually coming from people that are trying to, for political reasons, and who knows, for their own selfish reasons, really. So the media, needs to be, the government needs to do more to not gag the media, but then regulate and all that. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, you make a strong point there. I mean, censor, I have thoughts about censoring. I mean, but I like it when you say guardrails. I feel like, yeah, we need to approach tech media, and especially with today's media where everyone is a media channel,
Yep.
with a much better way than what we normally do. For everyone who's listening, I'm gonna put a link to Tunji's book in the show notes. Please go buy
Yeah.
his book.
Thank you.
But I think the last question I have for you is, just seeing all you've learned, all the things you've gone through this past 3 years. And I mean, kudos for writing a book and just kind
Thank
of what
you.
you experienced with the book. I really like that idea.
Thank you.
If you were to say to someone like a project manager, for example, who's coming to the UK today, like what are your top 3 tips for hitting the ground running? What would it be?
So if you're a project manager and you're looking to emigrate to the UK, what I would advise you to do is, be very sure you've got globally recognized certifications. And if specifically it's the UK, you shouldn't be thinking of, globally, we're thinking of number one globally recognized certification is PMP. Next will be Prince 2, and then maybe others, right? But then if you're thinking of the UK, you should be thinking of Prince 2 because it's very recognized there. You see what I'm talking about? So I've had people that already had PMP and then come in here and then they are disappointed, like, wow, people already told me to go do that and all that. So think of a globally recognized certification such that at least that gives you an edge. Not like in this society, they respect certification beyond experience, but you're going to find those exceptions where your certification is still recognized. So certification, globally recognized certification. So you're not coming here from scratch. And of course, if you're thinking of coming to do it here, it's more expensive. So just so you know, it's more expensive. So that's number one. And then 2, you've got to be sure that, your experience, and then you've got to be sure that you've got experience, because in this society, like I said, beyond certification, experience is also very key. So you want to have experience so that even when you eventually get a place, it's not a job you desire, but it's a job that's available. You are likely to rise faster and be able to leapfrog from one unit to another unit or department because of the skills you already possess. You see, because a golden fish has nowhere to hide. If you're good, you're good. You're going to be discovered. So a lot of people, they want to come here and then now say, okay, I just want to transit. I want to now start afresh as project management. No, you should have started that journey before coming here. So that's 3. And then 3, the power of your networks. Very important. So for me, I have to make sure I already found out some of my. So what the mistake a lot of people make is when they come to the UK, the people they associate with actually determines the first set of people you associate with determine where out your journey in that country. So I've had people that all their life is just care work and they've been here for decades. Why? The people they met, you can't give what you don't have. It's actually what those guys were doing that they will actually tell you, oh boy, now so with the survival. So they end up with security or care work. I'm not saying it's bad, but then is that really what you want to do? So if that's what you got part time, but a lot of people settle down there, that shouldn't be your final bus stop. So I had to harness the power of networks. I connected with some of my friends that were already in the corporate world, doing so well. They helped me to review my CV. You see what I'm talking about? And they were giving me job tips. They were jobs that they didn't want to take. They were passing on to me. In fact, the first corporate job I got, it was actually through a friend that they sent the job offer to, and he said he wasn't interested. And he said, I'm going to refer someone. That was how I got my first big break, a £50,000 per annum paying job. Bro, most people don't even smell that in the first 10 years in this country. So I'm actually grateful, to the fact that 5 years from now, your life will be different, but for 2 things: the people you've met, the books you've read. So it was power of association. And I think that worked for me, really. So your network, certification, key, experience, try to get it before coming here. And then your power of your network, people, very key.
Yeah, and I'm so happy you said that in our experience, because Nigerians do that a lot. Where I think some people can do it and get away with it, and some people have gotten away with it. But as usual, we always hear about it's the victors that we hear about, not the ones that fell by the wayside. And I'm a big believer that you don't come here and start trying. You don't move and then start trying to. Yes, you're starting afresh, But if your plan is to start afresh in a new career, just start doing some work to really start afresh already before you land. Because when you get into the new country and start trying to restart again, it's 2 times difficult. You're dealing with a ton of things at the same time. Yes, you might be lucky and get through with it, but like, just start that journey before you get into your new country, to be honest.
True.
Like, start it.
So that's being proactive. So you're not being reactive. You're not waiting. So what a lot of people just feel is, you know what? Once I get there, I'll be sorted. You get what I'm trying to say? Like,
Yeah.
let me just get there. I'll be sorted. No, it doesn't work that way. It doesn't work that way. It doesn't work that way. So a lot of people just feel. So what's your plan? You know what? Once I get there. So a lot of people have been sold, like, I don't know what kind of stories, to just feel, you know what? Once you get there, everything will fall into place. Like, no, it doesn't work that way. As in, do you know? So it wasn't until I got to UK I realized that all my experiences, all my certifications, everything I'd done, it was a good thing I'd gone through all that phase, because it actually prepared me, for what is to come. Really. So you've got to start that journey, really, because for a lot of people, I've had people come here and then that's when they decide to say, I want to start a new chapter in my life. Cybersecurity. Come on, you were in marketing in the bank. They're just off tangents. Do you understand what I'm saying? Like, how do you explain a journalist, now coming to say, I want to be cyber? I mean, like, there's always new people. Not like not like it's impossible, but man, you're going to struggle.
Yeah.
So you should have, so that's because a lot of people don't. So I think the final tip I'm going to give anybody is the law of time perspective. If you can think 5 years from now, 10 years from now to say, where do I want to be? You're going to make better decisions today. You're going to start doing those things to say, okay, when I get there in 5 years, okay, so you're going to be intentional about the courses you take, the jobs you take. Basically, not just for survival. A lot of people just live for survival. You know what? I just want to be able to pay the bills. And a lot of people just move also to say, you know what? What's the bandwagon? What's selling right now?
Yeah.
That's not a good way to live your life. Yeah.
All right, man. Thank you so much.
No, I wish, it looks like, we could just keep talking and chatting like back in Banana Island. You know what I'm talking about? Yeah.
I remember those days.
Yeah. That was like my best training. If you guys give me a VIP experience, like even me, I was enjoying the training.
All right, man. Thank you so much. Thank you for coming on here. That was amazing, to be honest. Like, that was amazing and humbling at the same time too. But kudos to him. And again, like I said in the episode, please buy his book. I think it's an amazing book to read if you're trying to, understand that what he says, that no blacks, no white. And I agree with that. I mean, some people don't agree, but I mean, I can't control everybody. But again, as always, please like, share. If you know someone who's going to find this useful, please send to them. Which is basically, if you know a project manager who's looking to move to the UK or who's trying to settle in, please send this to them. Subscribe as always, please. YouTube, Substack, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, anywhere you get your podcast. Thank you so much and have a beautiful day. Ciao.